Football is returning this weekend and I cannot wait. We already had the Championship, which has been back on this weekend, and the Premier League, most importantly, is returning this weekend. We've got new teams coming into the league. We've got obviously big teams last season who didn't do as well as maybe they should have done, and I can't wait to see how everyone gets on this year. Welcome back to the JL Media YouTube channel. My name is Jack, and today we're going to be going through the first round fixtures for the Premier League this season. We'll be discussing about each team, how they've done in the transfer market, how I think they might do in their respective game, and yeah, I'm not really going to be giving a prediction on the score. To be honest, I'll probably get it wrong, and I can't be bothered to go through 10 scores that I'm not going to get right. But I will give a little bit on who I think might win the game. And yeah, just going through discussing about the teams. So if you're looking forward to the video, please go down and smash that like button. If you're looking forward to the Premier League season this year, I certainly am. I can't wait for it to get started and see how each team gets on. I think we could be in for a very, very promising season. All the teams look strong this year. All the teams have done very good business in my opinion. So I think it's going to be very, very interesting. So yeah, smash the like button, smash the subscribe button. Obviously I haven't been as active as I would like to be on the channel. I've been uploading a few TikToks here and there, but I'm trying to keep active on both TikTok and YouTube. So if you do like these types of videos and you want to see them more often, I really appreciate all the support that I can get. But without further ado, we'll get straight into the first prediction. Okay then, so the first game of this Premier League season is going to be on Friday night, and it is Liverpool hosting Bournemouth at Anfield. So, story of two different teams here. Liverpool have heavily invested in their team this window after winning the Premier League last year. Bournemouth have sold a lot of their key players, especially in the defence, but they have also bought in quite a few replacements for that, and their team's still looking really strong. I'm hoping that Bournemouth can continue the good form they've been shown over the last few seasons. However, I do think this game is going to be a difficult one for them. The first game of the season being at Anfield, and obviously with all of Liverpool's stars who they've bought this year, I think Liverpool will win, probably should win this game as well. Obviously I watched the Community Shield yesterday. I'm recording this on Monday. I'm hopefully going to get it up tonight as well. I watched the Community Shield yesterday. Ekitike, Wirtz looked fantastic. Salah, as always, is ever present, and in that Liverpool team off the right hand side. I think Liverpool's defence looks solid as well. I know they conceded 2 goals yesterday, but Crystal Palace is a very good attacking side, so it wasn't a surprise to see them concede a couple of goals. I was surprised about the midfield choice with Liverpool. I don't imagine that's going to be the midfield that they go with in this game. There was no McAllister starting and no Gravenberch. Arnie Slot said Gravenberch was out because he's obviously just become a father, so he will definitely be back in for this game, I would imagine. And McAllister was obviously one that started a lot last year, so the decision I think is going to be whether he goes with Szoboszlai or Wirtz in front of their midfield too, and it's probably going to be Wirtz based off yesterday's performance. He was exceptional. He obviously got the assist for Ekitike's first goal, and I'll be interested to see how Liverpool line up in the front line. Will it be Ekitike down the middle? Will Ekitike be off the left? We know Gakpo can play left and can play down the centre as well, and obviously Salah's going to be on the right. So yeah, Liverpool's looking exceptionally strong going into the start of this season. Bournemouth have done, like I said, they've done really good business, and I wouldn't write them off this game. It's just with it being the first game of the season and Liverpool being at home, it's hard to look past them really winning this game. But as for Bournemouth, they've got some really good attacking talent. I wouldn't be surprised to see them maybe score a couple of goals against Liverpool. You've obviously got Evan Nilsson, who was signed last year and had a really good debut season in the Premier League. I'm expecting big things from him this year. You've still got Antoine Semenyo. I believe Justin Kluivert is injured for this game. Or he's been recovering from an injury, so I don't think he's going to be match fit to play against Liverpool. It might be a couple of games into the season before we start seeing him get regular minutes for Bournemouth. But yeah, really solid. They've replaced a couple of players in the defence. Replaced Kirkes with Adrien Truffert. I obviously covered in my transfers video earlier on that Truffert is a similar type of player to Kirkes, a very attacking fullback. So straight away, like for like replacement, get him in Iraiola's system, and I believe he's had quite a good pre-season with Bournemouth. Obviously, Bournemouth, let us know, any fans from Bournemouth, have you been impressed with Truffert so far? But yeah, definitely a like for like replacement for Kirkes, and I think he'll fit straight into Bournemouth's system. And obviously they've signed Petrovic as well as the goalkeeper from Chelsea, so they got rid of Kepa, who was on a loan deal. He's now at Arsenal, and they've brought in Petrovic for a £25 million fee, which is great business again. So I'm expecting positive things from Bournemouth throughout the season. Specifically in this game, I don't think they're going to do so well. I will go with a Liverpool win on the opening game, but I just think Liverpool's going to be ridiculously strong this year. And I think, as obviously in terms of a title race, I think there's going to be maybe 2 or 3 teams that could be hunting down that title and obviously trying to stop Liverpool from going back to back in the Premier League. But what we'll do now is we'll move on to the second game of the weekend. Okay then, so the second game of this weekend in the Premier League is quite a big one. It's the Saturday 12:30 kick-off, and it's Aston Villa hosting Newcastle at Villa Park. I've been really impressed with Aston Villa in pre-season, and I've been impressed with their business as well. They haven't signed too many players. They signed a young Turkish centre-back, Yasin Özkan. They signed Evan Gesan the other day, and they've signed Marco Bizzo, which is a goalkeeper from Stade Brest. They haven't let go of anyone, which is the most important thing for Aston Villa. They've kept a hold of Ollie Watkins, they've kept a hold of Morgan Rogers. Their midfield is exactly the same. They've kept a hold of Emilio Martinez, who I know was linked with moves away at the start of the transfer window. So that's the bit I've been most impressed with. There's been a lot of interest, especially in the likes of Ollie Watkins and Martinez, and they've managed to keep hold of them going into the start of the season. As for Newcastle, again, they've tried to do deals throughout the window, and it's been relatively quiet for them. They have managed to get a couple done. So they signed Elanga from Nottingham Forest, they signed Ramsdale from Southampton. It's just come out this week that they are completing a deal, or currently in the process of completing a deal for Malik Thiaw, which is a centre half from AC Milan. And then they've also signed 2 youngsters, so Antonio Cordero, who's a Spanish winger, and Sung-Soo Park, a Korean winger as well. And Sung-Soo Park has really impressed on the pre-season tour. They were talking about loaning him out, and now he's potentially going to be staying with the first team and developing with the first team, which I think is a great move. You can always play with the under-21s and obviously get experience in the youth leagues, the UEFA Youth League specifically, because Newcastle are in the Champions League this year. So yeah, I think that's a great decision if Newcastle are to keep him and integrate him with the first team squad. As for this game, I think Aston Villa should win this game. There's been lots of uncertainty around Alexander Isak at Newcastle and whether he's going to stay or whether he's going to go, and still at this point nobody knows what's going to happen with him. Newcastle have looked to try and get replacements in the striker department, and they haven't managed to buy anyone as of yet. There is links with Johan Wissa potentially coming into the squad this week, but that's going to be the replacement for Callum Wilson, who they let go on a free. It's not going to be the replacement for Alexander Isak. So I don't know if they're still looking at targets for him, but at the moment it's looking more likely that he's going to stay and see the season out with Newcastle. But due to all that unrest and obviously everything that's happened in the transfer market with Newcastle, they've bid for a few players who's turned them down. Aston Villa haven't had a hectic transfer window. They've kept their business quiet, they've kept a hold of their main players, and obviously they've still got Unai Emery, who is an unbelievable manager as well. So I'm expecting a big season from Aston Villa, and I do have them as favourites for this game as well. Obviously Villa Park is always a bear pit, and for it being the first game of the season, I think their fans will be really, really up for it. So yeah, very confident for Aston Villa, really impressed with them so far. Ollie Watkins has been on fire in pre-season. There is a question mark around Morgan Rogers and whether he's going to be available. I know he did pull up with a slight ankle injury, I believe. But the reports come back and said that it didn't seem too bad in the initial report. So I'm assuming that he's going to be playing. He will at least be on the bench and they can bring him on. For Newcastle, they're a good side, and I think they could have a good season if they keep Alexander Isak. Even if they don't, I think they should still have a positive season. They've got a good enough squad. but I think it's a difficult ask for them to go and get anything from Villa Park. So for me, my money would be on Aston Villa to get the 3 points in that game. But yeah, that's 12:30 on the Saturday. So we'll move on to the third game this week. So the third game this week is Brighton, who are hosting Fulham at the Amex. So these two teams for me are two outsiders this season who might make their way into a European spot. Two very, very solid teams with two very good coaches. Brighton obviously have Fabian Hürzeler and Fulham have Marco Silva. Brighton have had a very busy window. Again, we covered that in the previous video, and they've still been active and trying to make deals even after that video. Fulham have had a slightly quieter window. There is interest at the moment for a lad from Shakhtar Donetsk, a Brazilian winger, I believe. I can't quite remember his name, but I know there is interest in there. I think they've had a bid put in. I don't know if it's been accepted or rejected. I know that Shakhtar were wanting a little bit more money than what Fulham have offered, but they can obviously negotiate that and try and get that deal done. Apart from that, they've only brought in Benjamin Lecomte Fulham, which I'm assuming is going to be the backup goalkeeper to Bernd Leno. So again, haven't really done too much, but Fulham always have a solid squad. They always perform really well over the season, around about mid-table, and that's what I'm saying. This season they could be an outsider to potentially push on and try and get into one of them European spots. If England get the coefficients, it drops down a place, and yeah, I'm confident for Fulham this year. However, in this game again, I'm going to go with the home team as the favourite. Like I say, Brighton's business has been exceptional, and Fabian Hürzeler has now had a season of experience managing Brighton in the Premier League, so he knows what you need to deliver in the league to get the results required. They just finished outside of the European places, I believe, last year, Brighton. Obviously, they were just a few points away from getting in there, but they were in the race for Europe. There was about 5 or 6 teams last year that were competing for all of them European spots outside of the top 4, and it was really intense, come down all the way to the last game of the season. So yeah, that's why again they are for me an outsider to get into Europe this year. They've signed Maxim de Suiper, who's a Belgian left back, who I think's a great replacement for Pervis Estupiñán, who they let go to AC Milan. They've obviously got Bartha Bruggen, which is a fantastic goalkeeper, and I like the signing they made of Kostoualis Charalampos, a Greek striker, young lad, lots of potential, and Brighton love investing in these players who have the ability to grow and become a superstar who they can then sell on for a profit. So for me, Brighton favourites to beat Fulham, although I wouldn't be surprised to see that one end in a draw. Like I say, they are two very, very tightly matched teams. For an opening game of the season, I think it could be cagey, so it could go either way, but I would like to back the home team to get a result there in front of their home fans. So let me know, Brighton and Fulham fans, what are your thoughts for the season coming up? Like I say, I'm predicting big things for both of your sides, at least to finish in mid-table and potentially push on into the top half. And obviously, are you happy with your business, Brighton fans? Fulham fans, I know you're still working and getting deals done, but Brighton, you've been very active. How do you feel about the players that you've brought in this year? Okay then, so the fourth game of this weekend is another Saturday 3 o'clock kickoff, similar to Brighton and Fulham, and it is Sunderland hosting West Ham at the Stadium of Light. So Sunderland are back in the Premier League since they were relegated in 2017, and they're hosting West Ham, which I think is a favourable first game for them. You're not playing one of the top 6, so there's an opportunity for them to get a result there. The first promoted side that we were talking about in this video, West Ham under Graham Potter, they had a poor season last year. I think by their standards, they had Julian Lopetegui in for the start of the season, and then Graham Potter come in and try to steady the ship a little bit and try and keep them just above the relegation zone, which he managed to do. I've seen lots of people predicting West Ham to go down this year, or to be down in and around the relegation places. I quite like Graham Potter as a manager, and I think he's got a decent squad at West Ham. They've obviously let go of Mohamed Kudus this year, which I think is going to be a big loss, but they've got the captain Jarrod Bowen, and Jarrod Bowen is a fantastic player. and often is a decisive game winner for West Ham. He carries them on the back last year, and has done for a few seasons. He scored the winning goal to win them the Conference League. So yeah, he's a fantastic player, and they've got quality all around the squad. They've got Lucas Paqueta, who again is being rumoured with moves away. But they've had quite a good pre-season as well. Obviously, they've had the tour in America where they played Manchester United, Everton, and Bournemouth, and they got some good results. They did get beat off Man United, but I believe they won against Everton and against Bournemouth. Nicholas Fulkrug, who had his first season in the Premier League last year, struggled to adapt a little bit, but seemed to be looking good in pre-season. So maybe again he can kick on now. He's got that experience, and he's had a year or so playing, just under a year, with Graham Potter, so he'll know his system, he knows what's required, and maybe him and Bowen can link up. Sunderland have been very active in the market, and I think they had to be, because it's very difficult for a promoted side coming up to stay in the league and not go straight back down. Some of the signings they've made are very, very ambitious. Granit Xhaka, it sticks out in my mind, a really, really good signing there. And obviously they've replaced a goalkeeper, they've replaced the back line. Their attack, they've got Mark Guiu, I don't quite know how to pronounce his name. He's a young lad from Chelsea, who Chelsea signed from Barcelona. So he's come in. And again, is he going to be the one to spearhead Sunderland to safety and to keep them up this year? Potentially, you don't know. It is just a straight loan deal, so there's no option to buy at the end of it, as far as I'm aware. But if you look at the midfield, they've really revamped that midfield, and that, for me, is key. They already have Dan Neil, who they had last year, who's a solid player in the Championship. Is he Premier League quality? I'm not too sure. But they've signed Noah Siddiqui, they've signed Granit Xhaka, and Habib Diarra as well. So for me, that's a great midfield to go into the Premier League season with. I wouldn't put it past Sunderland winning this game. This one's a really difficult one to call. A draw maybe seems fair. But yeah, I think Sunderland's opening games are very favourable for them coming up. But the last thing you want is to be playing a couple of the big sides like Liverpool, Man City, Arsenal. That's the worst thing for a promoted side. But West Ham at home is definitely a favourable game, and I wouldn't be surprised to see that end in a draw. Obviously, West Ham are Premier League experienced, and a lot of people will probably be tipping them to win. But like I say, I've seen a lot of people tipping them to be relegated this year. I don't think that's going to be the case. I just wonder how long it'll take them to get started. If it takes the same length of time as it did last year, then definitely they could be down in a relegation fight. But if they kick-start the season under Graham Potter, they've had a good pre-season, if they can get a couple more names through the door, then definitely I'll be positive for West Ham and thinking that they can get back to the top half where they had been for so long under David Moyes. But Sunderland fans, let me know, are you excited for the Premier League? You're back in the league. The Tyne-Wear derbies will be back this year. Let me know your thoughts on that. And West Ham fans, how do you think you're going to get on this year? What do you think about a lot of people predicting you to go down? Do you not mind being an underdog? I think it's a little bit harsh personally after West Ham has been so consistent for so long. And yeah, you had a poor season, but I think you'll definitely bounce back this year. But we'll move on to the third and final 3 o'clock kickoff this weekend. So the third and final 3 o'clock kickoff is Tottenham hosting Burnley. It's Thomas Frank's first Premier League game in the Spurs dugout, and this one for me is going to be a Tottenham win. Burnley, coming up from the Championship as runners-up, they lost the league on the final day to Leeds United, and they've lost James Trafford in this transfer window, which I think is a big loss. Tottenham have strengthened as well. We just mentioned before in the West Ham game, Mohamed Kudus has left. He has joined Spurs with Thomas Frank. So Tottenham have really revamped themselves this summer. They've brought in a new manager. They've brought in a few new players. They did miss out on Morgan Gibbs-White, who they were interested in. He's now gone and signed a contract extension with Nottingham Forest. But I still think they'll have enough to win this game. The key thing with Tottenham is last year they had a lot of injuries, and that affected the Premier League season. They still managed to go on and win the Europa League, beating Man United in the final. So now they've got Champions League football this year, but the main thing for them this season is they have to keep their squad fit. And obviously they've got a lot of depth in the squad in any case. Dominic Solanke hasn't featured in pre-season yet as far as I'm aware. I'm not quite sure what his injury is and how long he's going to be out for. But there has come out that they are interested in Savinho from Manchester City as well. I think they're being quoted around about £50 million for him. So if they get him in, they've got a lot of winger depth, attacker depth, and obviously when Solanke comes back, he'll just add to it as well. James Maddison is out as well. So Tottenham obviously had a pre-season tour over in Asia, and James Maddison done his ACL, so he will miss around about 6 to 7 months of the season, which is a big loss considering he's a creative outlet for them in that midfield. I wonder whether Kulusevski might fill in the 10 role, because I know he's played there before, but that obviously was under Postecoglou's system. Thomas Frank might go with a completely different system. We all know from Brentford, with Mbeumo and Damsgaard and Wissa, Thomas Frank's wingers are massively involved in the game, so it's no surprise that he's interested in Savinho, that he's already signed Kudus, he's got Brennan Johnson there. Obviously this will be the first Premier League season in a long time that Heung-min Son is not pulling on a Tottenham shirt. He's transferred to America for LAFC. So big changes, like I say, at Tottenham. And as for Burnley, again, second promoted side that we've mentioned after Sunderland, it's going to be a difficult season for them, I think. Burnley fans, let me know, are you confident for the season upcoming? I really would like to see a change up in the Premier League. I would like to see the promoted teams start surviving relegation. Otherwise, what we've seen in the last few years is you just get the same teams over and over again playing each other, and it becomes less competitive because you already know the teams coming up are starting, a foot behind the rest of the teams, all to do with finances and everything like that. So yeah, as for Burnley, they've lost a lot of the players. They have signed Martin Dubravka, which is a good signing for them. Martin Dubravka's an experienced Premier League goalkeeper from Newcastle, so I think he will help steady the defence a little bit. But I think James Trafford is by far and away the better goalkeeper. And yeah, to lose him to Manchester City is a bit of a shame. But yeah, I will go with the Tottenham winning that game. And I'll be interested to see what Burnley fans think, how they think they're going to do. And Spurs fans, are you excited for this season under Thomas Frank? New manager, a new look Tottenham. I think you could do very well, and I'll be interested to see how you get on in the Champions League this season as well. But without further ado, we'll move on to the 5:30 kick-off on the Saturday. So the 5:30 kick-off on Saturday is Wolverhampton Wanderers at home to Manchester City. So the game has been played at Molineux. And Wolves this year lost Matheus Cunha to Manchester United in the summer. That was one of the first deals to be done. Manchester City have invested a lot as well, and I think they are going to be one of the teams that are going to challenge for the title. I think there's 3 teams, maybe 4, that could push for the title, but I think definitely 3. It'll be Liverpool, Manchester City and Arsenal. So this is an interesting game for Manchester City to start the season. They're away to Wolves, and Wolves had a slow start again last season, a bit like West Ham, and then they changed managers, so they changed to Vitor Pereira, and he come in, and his tactics, his playing style really revolutionised Wolves, and they actually managed to finish 15th, I think, 14th or 15th, could be wrong on that one, somewhere around there. But they were in the relegation zone, or battling out close with Ipswich for a long time, and it looked like maybe Wolves at one point would have gone down and Ipswich would have stayed up. So for Vitor Pereira to come in and get that result is absolutely massive. It's a difficult game to call because, and always with the first game of the season, there's a lot of player rustiness. They don't want to give too much away. It's always a bit tight and tense. You don't want to be the first one to make a mistake in the team, essentially, in the first game of the season. So, as for Manchester City, they have invested a lot, and they've invested in Tijani Reinders in the midfield, and they've invested in Ryan Cherki, who's an attacking midfielder / forward. So that's 2 good signings. They've signed Ryan Aït-Nouri from Wolves, so his first game will be going back to Molineux, which is his old club, and it'll be interesting to see whether Pep Guardiola starts him in the game, or if he goes with Gvardiol at left back. We know Pep Guardiola likes to play with his back 4 as 4 centre halves. We've never seen it before in Premier League history, Guardiola is revolutionary in his tactics and what he decides to do, but he loves to go with a centre-back, a left-back and a centre-back, a right-back, and then two centre-backs in between them. So, yeah, I'd love to have a sit down and a chat with him and for him to explain his logic to us, but it still works, it really works. So, they've won 4 Premier League titles in a row. I don't think I'm supposed to be sitting here and criticising him for it. It'll be interesting to see whether he goes without Nuri or Vardiol. But yeah, Wolves, it'll be interesting to see how they adapt without Cunha. I don't think it's going to have that much of an effect on them. I'm predicting Wolves to be stable this year. I always remember Wolves under Nuno, when they had Jimenez and Traore and Neves and Coutinho, Rui Patricio in goal. They were always a mid-table pushing upwards and in Europe sort of thing. So it's a shame to see them down near the relegation zone last season. I think they're going to be stable this year. I love Vitor Pereira as a manager. Watching when he come in and seeing the difference in Wolves' performances towards the back end of last season was remarkable. So I'm confident for Wolves. I'm going to go with a Man City win in this game, just because it's Man City, and like I say, I'm tipping them to be in the title race. And if to be in the title race, you would have to win this type of game. Start your season off well, and continue like that. So yeah, I'm going to go with Man City win, but I also wouldn't be surprised to see a Wolves draw as well. Let me know, Manchester City fans, what are your thoughts on Savinho potentially leaving? I know he's only just signed and had 1 season with you. Is that a surprise? Or I know Pep Guardiola's transfer policy is if a player doesn't want to play for you, then he's more than happy to let you go. So are you just used to that, or are you surprised? Would you like to see Savinho stay for another year? But obviously you have brought in Ryan Cherki, and he plays in a similar position to Savinho as well. So that could be a link. I'm not too sure. Just let me know below your thoughts on that. And without further ado, we'll have a look at what the Sunday games have in store for us. So we have 2 o'clock kickoffs on the Sunday. One is Chelsea hosting Crystal Palace at Stamford Bridge, and the other one is Nottingham Forest hosting Brentford at the City Ground. We'll just touch on the Chelsea Crystal Palace game first of all. The first thing is congratulations to Crystal Palace for winning the Community Shield yesterday. No trophies in Crystal Palace, no major trophies in Crystal Palace's history, and they've won 2 in the last 3 or 4 months. That's remarkable. Oliver Glasner is doing a fantastic job there. It is a shame about the CAS appeal. The verdict has come back in for that. I am putting a video on TikTok going into a little bit more depth on that. And obviously seeing from both sides, the Crystal Palace fans and Nottingham Forest fans. So Crystal Palace fans, let us know below obviously your thoughts on that. I can already imagine what you're thinking, but just let me know anyway and engage in the comments section. As for Chelsea, I mentioned before that I think there's 3 or 4 teams that can potentially push for the title, and Chelsea for me is the outside of the 4th one. They won the Club World Cup in the summer, and they absolutely battered Paris Saint-Germain in the final, who won the Champions League. So for me, and the signings that they've brought in, Liam Delap, João Pedro, Bino Gittins, they've really invested heavily. Estevao's come in for them as well. So they're looking really, really strong. I think this game is an interesting one because it's 2 teams who are on the up. So Chelsea's finally got the transfer policy sorted out. They're making great signings. They're letting go of a lot of players that they don't need, trying to reduce that squad down a little bit, and even still it looks far too big. But then you've got Crystal Palace as well, who under Oliver Glasner have just been continuing to rise. And Crystal Palace has always been a mid-table team, and I don't want to be the one to say that they're going to break that this year and they're going to go and try and push for Europe again. They are obviously now in the Conference League as it's been decided. I think they can go far in that and maybe even win it. So we've seen before, West Ham have won the Conference League. Aston Villa got far in the Conference League. Chelsea won the Conference League last year. So yeah, English teams tend to do well in that competition because they're just far too strong. And obviously the English teams are far too strong in the Europa League as well, in my opinion. It's the Champions League where the English teams need to get better in, but I wouldn't mind seeing Crystal Palace go far in the Conference League. I think they've got potential to do it, and Oliver Glasner has had experience winning the Europa League, I believe, with Frankfurt. So that's a great sign for Crystal Palace, and I think you've got a lot to look forward to this year. It's not the European competition that you would have wanted to be in, but it's still a European competition and there's still a chance for you to win a trophy, so I'll try and look on the positives for you. As for the first game of the season, there's still question marks around Mark Gahey and Eberechi Eze's future for Crystal Palace. As I said, Chelsea's done exceptional business. They've let go of players they needed to, and they've brought in great replacements for them. So I am going to go with the Chelsea winning this one. And like I say, I think Chelsea are going to be an outsider for a title push. They're going to at least be in the top 4, I would imagine, based on deals that they've done this summer and how strong the squad's looking. And for me, it was that Club World Cup performance. They didn't really play anyone on the build-up of the final, but that Paris Saint-Germain game was a make or break for them to get the Club World Cup, and they absolutely demolished Paris Saint-Germain, who themselves are a fantastic team. I watched them in the Champions League this season, and they beat Liverpool, they beat Villa, they absolutely smashed Inter Milan in the final, and obviously they beat Arsenal as well in the semis. So yeah, great performance from Chelsea to win the Club World Cup. Congratulations to them as well, and I think you're going to be on for quite a good season this year, possibly pushing on for the title. So yeah, the other 2 o'clock kick-off game is Nottingham Forest versus Brentford, which is at the City Ground. And Nottingham Forest, due to Crystal Palace's appeal being rejected, Nottingham Forest in the Europa League. So last season they had a really good season and they surprised a lot of teams. Nuno, as I mentioned, had a few good seasons at Wolves. Didn't quite succeed at Tottenham, and he's done really well at Nottingham Forest since he's come in. He helped them survive relegation. They did end up finishing 7th because Crystal Palace won the FA Cup. They were going to be in the conference, and now they're going into the Europa League. So Brentford as well, they've lost Brian Mbeumo, they've lost Christian Norgard, and they've lost Mark Flecken. They've replaced Mark Flecken with Keeman Kelleher from Liverpool, and they've signed Anthony Malambo, which is a midfielder / winger, I believe, could be the Brian Mbeumo replacement. And Wissa is still at Brentford, but he's been refusing to train, refusing to play for them in the pre-season games, so it looks likely that he's going to be coming to Newcastle. He stated that he wants to come to Newcastle, and Brentford are getting replacements in. I believe they're looking at Dango Tora from Bournemouth, so that'll be a good replacement for them. They always seem to do with Brentford. They sell a player and they have replacements lined up. I don't think they were particularly wanting to let Wissa go this season. I think they wanted to keep a hold of him after they'd already let Brian Mbeumo leave. But anyway, they're getting a replacement in for him. So it'll be interesting to see if they can conclude that deal this week. I don't know if Nottingham Forest will have as good of a season as they had last year, because teams will start to figure them out. Normally when you see someone who has been down the bottom of the league and they have one good season, it's because teams are struggling to figure out how they're doing what they're doing. So Nottingham Forest last year were blisteringly quick on the counter-attack. They obviously had Anthony Elanga, they had Hudson-Odoi, Chris Wood was firing goals in for fun, Morgan Gibbs-White was creating chances left, right and centre. The big thing for Nottingham Forest this year was keeping a hold of Gibbs-White. I think if they had have lost Elanga and Gibbs-White, it would have been very difficult for them to sustain the performances that they had last year, but they managed to tie Gibbs-White down to a new contract. Elanga has left and he's joined Newcastle, but they've replaced him with Dan Ndoye from Bologna, which I think is a great signing, and it wasn't for a lot of money. I think it was about £35-40 million. So that's great business from Nottingham Forest, and I'd be interested to see how they get on in the Europa League. They're in that competition with Aston Villa, and I do think Aston Villa's stronger than Nottingham Forest, so I would be expecting Villa to go further in the competition, but I wouldn't put it past Nottingham Forest to have a good campaign. I think they could be steady mid-table, nothing drastic. I don't think they're going to drop all the way back down the league, because I think Nuno's a fantastic manager and he's got a system there now. It's just how long does it take the other Premier League teams to figure out how to play against that system for me. But I would fancy Nottingham Forest to beat Brentford. It's going to be a difficult season, I think, for Brentford to adjust, losing a lot of goals from their forward line in Mbeumo and Wissa. It's how do the replacements fit into that team, and most importantly, how do they replace Thomas Frank? Because you can lose a player and you can replace a player, not a problem at all. But when you're trying to replace a manager who's been there for so long and his system is ingrained in that team, it's very difficult. Good luck to Keith Andrews, because he's got big boots to fill. and I'm hoping that Brentford do have a solid, steady season, because I think they've been a nice addition to the Premier League since they've come up. They've not been relegated since, so ever present in the Premier League for the last few years, and let's see how Keith Andrews gets on. And the final game on Sunday afternoon is the 4:30 kickoff, and this is a big one for an opening game of the season. It's Manchester United hosting Arsenal at Old Trafford. So both of these teams have done very good business over the summer. Man United's brought in Mbeumo, Cunha, and they got the Sesko deal over the line. Obviously, it was a deal between Sesko going to Newcastle or Sesko going to Man United, and he chose Man United, so for me that's a great decision for him, great decision for his career. At the end of the day, Man United is a substantially bigger club than Newcastle, so you cannot criticise the lad for choosing that path. And also, Man United's completely different. Ruben Amorim's had a full pre-season with this squad now. Obviously, Sesko won't have had that pre-season because he's only just joined them, but they'll be getting more used to his system. They don't have European football this year, so they can solely concentrate on the Premier League. And I'm expecting Man United to have a very good year. Lots of people are expecting Man United to perform poorly again. Believe me, Man United will not have the season that they had last year this season. They will be much more improved. As for this game against Arsenal, I think it's going to be difficult. I'll probably go with a draw. I think Arsenal have had very good business as well. They've signed Madueke, they've signed Christian Norgard, they've signed Gyökeres, they've signed Kepa and Mosquera. So lots of young potential and lots of experience going into that Arsenal squad as well. I always thought Arsenal needed a striker to push to the next level and to win the Premier League. So for me, I definitely think they're going to be up there competing with Liverpool and Manchester City. It's just how does Gyökeres adapt to the Premier League, because obviously he's been used to playing in the Portuguese league, and he had a spell at Brighton and he had a spell at Coventry, so he understands English football, but he hasn't been playing consistently, and not for a club as big as Arsenal. So there is added pressure that comes with that, and it's going to be interesting to see how he adapts, how he fits into Mikel Arteta's system. If he starts firing goals in for fun, which wouldn't surprise us because he's got Saka supplying him, he's got Odegaard supplying him, Rice is in the midfield as well, so I would not be surprised to see that Arsenal team click straight away and even possibly get a result against Manchester United. But I'm going to go safe with a draw. Both teams are going to be up for it Sunday 4:30, and Man United Arsenal is always a classic Premier League tie, so yeah, I'm really looking forward to watching that one and seeing how both teams get on. I would go Arsenal to be in the title race. Man United should get back into the European places this year, whether that's in the top 7 or 6. And if England get the coefficients, then yeah, they definitely will. But it'll be interesting to see how far Man United can push towards the Champions League. I don't know if they've got enough strength to get in the Champions League yet. There may be just another season out of that, but definitely with the business that they've done, if they did get in there in the fifth spot or fourth spot, then it wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't be a massive shock, because, like I say, they can fully concentrate on the league and the domestic cups as well. I wouldn't be surprised to see them go far in the FA Cup or the League Cup. We know Manchester United love a cup run. But Man United fans, let me know your thoughts on the business, and are you happy with the Sesko signing? And as for Arsenal, do you think this year could be the year where you finally win the Premier League? Can you push Liverpool or Manchester City, whoever it is that's going to be up there with you, as far as possible, and this time finally get it over the line? I certainly wouldn't be surprised if you did. Okay then, and the final game of this first week is on Monday night, 8 o'clock, and it is Leeds United at home to Everton. So Leeds United is the final promoted team. They are the winners of the championship, and Everton under David Moyes, who really transformed them last year. So Everton's just been confirmed to get Jack Grealish on a loan deal with the option to buy him at the end of the year for £50 million. He's definitely got one eye on the World Cup. As I mentioned, I've done a TikTok on Jack Grealish has moved to Everton. He's got one eye on the World Cup and he wants to be playing consistently and he wants to be performing so that Thomas Tuchel notices him and picks him in the squad to go to America. So that is a bonus for Everton. That's how the transfer can really work in their favour. If he starts delivering good performances, and with the depth that you've already made the signing of Tieno Barry, you've already signed Kane and Dewsbury Hall, you've got Iliman and Jai, you've got Beto, Jack Harrison. So the squad is definitely there for yourself. And with David Moyes as the manager, I'm expecting big things from Everton, possibly mid-table, even in the top half. I think you could have a very, very good season. As for Leeds, again, promoted side, it's always difficult. They've made a few good signings. And this game at home to Everton is definitely a nice one. A bit like the Sunderland at home to West Ham. It's a nice one. You're playing at home in front of your home fans. They're going to be up for it. It's going to be Monday night under the lights at Ellen Road. Definitely there's a result on the cards there for Leeds. But, like I say, I do favour Everton again. Leeds can 100% win this game. But I just fancy Everton, especially with the business they've done. I don't think Jack Grealish will be available for the first game, but they've looked alright in pre-season, Everton. Again, they were on the same tour with Man United, Bournemouth, West Ham. So they looked good, they looked strong. And they've got a solid defence as well. Jordan Pickford, James Tarkowski, Jared Branthwaite, Mikalenko, Patterson. They've got a fantastic defence, and David Moyes really utilised that towards the end of last season. And they really kept a lot of clean sheets. So that's going to be, I think, where the problem comes. It's how will Leeds attack, how will Leeds break down Everton's defence. If Leeds can get a couple of goals, 100% the result is on the cards for them. But yeah, it's that adaptation from the Championship to the Premier League and how long it takes them to adjust. Daniel Farke obviously has had experience playing in the Premier League, or managing in the Premier League for Norwich. So it's a big, big test for him. Can he do it with Leeds this time? They are the champions of the Championship. So there's expectation on them to be the strongest of the promoted teams coming up. And Leeds is a traditional Premier League club. It's always nice to have them in the Premier League. And yeah, like I say, I do want to see the pattern change from the three teams coming up being the same three teams that go down. The league needs to be interchanged, it needs to be competitive, and it needs to be engaging for the viewers watching it. And that's why I'm so excited for this year, because I think the three teams coming up have invested and they've tried to do as much business as possible, and I think it makes for a very interesting season. So I am going to go with an Everton win against Leeds, however, for that opening game. But don't be surprised to see Leeds potentially pick up a point or even a win if they make Ellen Road a bear pit, which we know they can do. First game back in the Premier League after getting promoted. This one is going to be a big one on the Monday night. Okay then, so that is my preview for this weekend's games. Let me know if I've got anything drastically wrong. Obviously, feel free to comment your predictions or opinions on the upcoming games. How do you think your team's going to get on this season? And yeah, I'm really interested. I think there's some fantastic games this weekend, and I think it's going to be a very good season. Like I've said before, I'm excited to see how the promoted teams do. I'm excited to see how the teams from last year, who maybe underperformed, can change that, and they've got new systems, new managers coming in. So it's all going to be very interesting, and obviously most of all, can Liverpool retain the title? Because I think there's a couple of teams who's going to be hunting them down, looking to take that off them. So yeah, looking forward to it. I'll do a review after all the games have finished. I'll probably do that on Monday night or Tuesday morning, obviously because Leeds will play Everton on the Monday night. And we'll go through if I've got anything drastically wrong, if there's been any upsets. And yeah, we'll have a look and see what the scores were and who performed well. So that'll definitely be coming towards the start of next week. And I've also got a video planned as well for the boxing card on Saturday night. Moses Atomaz fighting Dillian White, that's the headline. And we're going to go through all the undercard fights as well. So that'll be coming up tomorrow, I believe. So keep your eye out for that one. If you've enjoyed the video, please hit the like button. And if this is content that you want to see more of, please hit the subscribe button and let me know that you want me to upload more of these videos. But until the next video, please take care of yourself, and I'll see you soon.
Artlist.io